I learned to weave in college, and my teacher was Mary Pendleton. Her husband Fred made looms, and she gave workshops. They had a shop in Sedona, and her husband made and sold looms there. They were well known back then in the 80s. This Pendleton loom is very simple, so it will be excellent to show you the basics of how a table loom works. Let's take a look at the parts of the loom. This is the front beam, and you wind the woven cloth onto the cloth beam. The hand crank is ratcheted to keep the yarn on the loom tensioned. This is the shuttle. It goes back and forth through the shed to weave. Weft yarn is the yarn that's woven onto the cloth. This is the reed. It keeps the warp threads evenly spaced and is held in place by the beater. The beater goes forward and back to tamp the weft yarn in place. These are the harnesses. They hold the heddles and go up and down to create a shed for the shuttle to travel back and forth. There are only 2 harnesses on this loom. Looms can have multiple harnesses, but that's a subject for another day. We call the yarn wound onto the loom the warp yarn. This is the back beam, and the warp yarn is wound onto the rear beam. The rear beam is also ratcheted to loosen or tighten the tension. This project has a striped warp, and the weft yarn is gray. Each warp yarn passes through one slit in the reed. This is called a 12-dent reed, and that means there are 12 slits per inch. This shows what it looks like right behind the beater bar. The warp yarn is passing through the heddles. Each heddle slides inside the harness. I can add more heddles if I need them for a project. So one of the differences between a rigid heddle loom and a table loom is that on a table loom, the heddles can move around and get closer or spaced further apart. You can also use different sizes of reeds. On a rigid heddle loom, the rigid heddle serves as the reed, heddles, and beater all in one. You can purchase rigid heddles that have various sizes of slots per inch. Back to the table loom. I've lowered the lever so one harness goes up and the other goes down. This creates the shed. Let's talk about the shuttle some more. The weft yarn is wound onto the bobbin, which is placed inside the shuttle. My father made this shuttle for me. Here's what a bobbin looks like. There's a link in the description to one of my short videos showing how I got the yarn on the loom. For now, you can watch me weave a little. If you'd like to learn more about weaving, subscribe to my channel and check out my website, The Creativity Patch. There's lots more to learn there, and I've got fun weaving kits too. Happy weaving!